Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the GolfRules Questions podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We do appreciate every time that you do download, share, listen to, comment on, and just give us some general feedback on the GolfRules Questions podcast, where this is, episode 16. We're enjoying it, having fun. Joined by the GolfRules Meister himself, Blakey. How are you today, sir? You well?
Yeah, going really well. Obviously, big tournament coming up this week. What is that tournament there, Roscoe?
Oh, well, it might be the Masters, David. Might be the Masters in November. We all know the situation why the Masters is going to finish off the year as the last major, and we're excited as golfers. You know, certainly us Melburnians have been starved of a bit of golf action, so it's great to see everyone rallying around Masters at a time when everyone in Australia certainly is getting ready for the big summer of golf. So, yeah, no, I'm very keen to see the Masters. Very hard to pick a winner. A lot of sentiment around, Tiger going back-to-back. Personally, not sure if he's carrying the form. Brooks Koepka, if you talk to Rocket from the My Love of Golf podcast, he will say Brooks is his man and he's set his run in a Melbourne Cup-style scenario perfectly. But who could win? Who's going to win from your end, Blakey?
Well, I mean, Bryson DeChambeau, everyone's talking about him. He sort of seems to be hitting it the longest and the highest, although it has been wet around there, and they are worried about muddy golf balls, which leads me to think that they possibly will bring in preferred lies one or two of the days of the Masters, but who knows? They might get helicopters out there and portable hair dryers to help dry out the fairways.
Well, if anywhere's going to have some form of, access to drying equipment, ventilation, it's going to be that joint. They've already got the sub-air in all of the greens and all of that sort of thing. So I could only imagine that they will go to whatever lengths possible to prevent it from being preferred lies for the tournament. But, the reality is it's not in April, it's in August, it's in November. It's not the optimum time. I'm not sure. Is the course usually closed at this time of the year for the members? It's 6 months on, 6 months off. I'm probably assuming that it might be closed. I don't know. Someone might want to chime in and let us know if Augusta is usually closed at this time of year. But winners could come from anywhere, and it's that tournament that is as likely to throw up a surprise as it is a someone who you would have otherwise tipped. But looking forward to it, as all of us golfers are. Let's come back to the Masters in a little bit, because there's a little bit to unpack from a rules questions scenario there. But let's go straight into answering last week's golf rules question of the week, the GRQOTW, as we like to abbreviate it into. What's that called? Is that a palindrome, or is that a alliteration?
Acronym.
Acronym. There you go. Sorry.
Now, can you remember what the question was?
Yeah, I can, because I was perplexed by it when you dropped it on me, as most people would be when you drop what is a threesome onto them. And I'm not trying to be inappropriate there, but I honestly didn't know in a golf rule sense what the threesome meant. As I referred to in the video that you can see on the Instagram, I just thought it was a general term for people playing in a three, and there might have been some rules around how a three is allowed to proceed on a course, whether they do or don't have right of way or access or that sort of thing. But no, it's actually a form of play that is designated by and bound under the rules of golf. And so what is a threesome, Blakey?
Well, it's very similar to a foursome. It's just you got one less partner. So in a foursome, it's two players, one ball, and you can play stroke play or match play against two other players, one with one ball, alternating shots. Whereas in a threesome, it's only match play. It's not really going to work in stroke play. It's only match play, and it's two players as a side playing one ball, alternating shots, versus a single playing his or her one ball.
So what type of scenario would that happen in?
It's just a competition that a committee could adopt. You know, it's very rare. I don't think I've ever heard of it being played, but it's certainly a competition that a committee could adopt. It could be the My Love of Golf threesome competition, something like that.
So just to go back on that, so if it is in the syllabus, if it is in your syllabus or ever has been in your syllabus, they're out there in clubland, please let us know. I'd love to know which course has had a threesome as part of the yearly golf calendar. So it's me, you, and one other. So it could be me versus you two.
Yeah, and we play alternating shots. So I'd hit a drive, my partner hits the second, I hit the third. The next hole, my partner hits the drive, I hit the second, but you are playing your own ball the whole time.
And it's a match.
And I haven't looked into the handicap situation, but I'd say you play off your handicap and we play off a combined divided by 2 handicap.
Interesting. There's it sort of leads a question, and I hear this a little bit. You know, we talk about threesomes, foursomes, four ball, best ball, all of those terminologies, and I certainly hear, you know, people who are newer to competition talking about 4-ball, best ball, and they struggle sometimes early on to get the concept that a 4-ball, best ball is 2v2, you know, or you know, it's 2 scores combining for 1 score of that team. When you have the, you know, a more common event to have in your, you know, calendar for your club events is a 4-ball, best ball. Still not very popular something in a lot of places, but yeah, that people, you know, when they say 4-ball, oh, I'm playing on a 4-ball, my head goes to it's 2 and 2, but they're thinking it's just 4 people. So there is another example of a lot of the terminologies that sometimes the newer golfer, you know, just has to learn, and you do that by participating in the club and getting around the people that, you know, will at the club that will guide you to any of those questions. But threesome is not something that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, well, as you said, if anyone has ever played a threesome or knows of a threesome at their club, get in touch, let us know. I'd really like to find out.
Very good. Well, there you go. That's the GolfRules question of the week. Was there a winner of the GolfRules question? Did someone?
Yeah, there's a few. Jerry Bauer, almost. I mean, he answers the GolfRules questions almost immediately after the podcast has been released. Fraser Nickel was another one with the Facebook group, the GolfRules Samaritan, and there were a couple of others as well. So, yeah, they'd been looking under Rule 22, so very good on them for researching the book. I mean, you know, all the GolfRules questions, they can be found in the book, Roscoe.
Yes, they can be found in the book, the big book, which I saw you wielding around. Do you carry the GolfRules, you know, the big book everywhere?
No, not everywhere, but I like to have it nearby. I mean, if you've got your mobile, your cell phone, you can download the Rules of Golf, and it has the official guide to the Rules of Golf there, and you can get that for free. But I like to flick through the pages of the real book, or you can get the Players Edition as you've got there.
My recommendation is everyone should carry the Players Edition in their bag. If you are a regular week in, week out club competition player, it's just one of those things. To me, it's always been like carrying some tees, some balls, and, you know, a wet weather glove. You know, probably the next thing to go in is the Players Edition, because you just never know that one time when you might need to, for whatever reason, have it handy. And most clubs you can pick them up at. Yeah,
most clubs you can, or you can get them online. But again, if you've got your mobile, you get the Players Edition. Let's stick that there. You get the Players Edition, the Rules of Golf, and the official guide. So, you know, just make sure if you've got a mobile, you download the RNA app or the USGA app if you're in the US.
Not a lot of space on my phone to download things like that. Too many photos. Too many good photos like this one behind me there, Blakey.
We'll get to that.
Anyway, the Masters, let's turn our attention back to that. Excited about that.
Yeah, that little tournament over there in Georgia.
Yeah. So it's been the seen of a handful of rules, scenarios, imbroglios, and situations over the generations. Some of your favourites that you recall, David?
Favourites, can't really say they're favourites, but certainly memorable. The one that I just posted on Instagram/Facebook today about Zach Johnson last year. He just sort of did a bit of a waggle, a bit of a half swing, no intention to hit the ball when his ball was teed up on the 13th tee, and managed to hit it into the tee marker. So had no intention to hit it, managed to cause it to move. The ball wasn't yet in play, and also it was in the teeing area, so there is no penalty there and no stroke there either, and he just gets to replace it, and it was pretty embarrassing, but pretty funny for everyone else. So that was a good one.
Did his playing partners go, one?
No, they didn't make the very amateur mistake of but Zach did let out a bit of a one of my favorite words, which is quite funny. Not really something you're supposed to hear.
Well, we haven't put the explicit button on this yet, so let's not. But I haven't watched the video this morning, and I have seen it obviously before, but I can't remember the full length of it. Was that group competent enough to be able to go, yeah, that's not a penalty, just pick it up, let's get it going? Yeah.
Yes, they were. Matt Kuchar was in the group, and I think Zach you can hear Mutter goes, oh, what do I do there? And sort of the caddies and Cooch said, look, it wasn't intentional, clearly. So just put your ball back, whatever, and no stroke.
Cool. So that was fairly recent. What about others?
Yeah, another really big one, the Tiger Woods drop. I think that was 2012, Roscoe. Do you remember?
Yeah, numbers and memories as I'm getting older, mate. But it was around that time. But someone can happy to tell us what year it was. We'll look it up. But yeah, anyway, whatever
so
year, 13.
That was on the 15th hole, and he absolutely hit a superb shot in there. It ricochets off the flag with a little bit of spin. Didn't really need too much spin on that 15th green to come back into the pond there. So his ball is now in what was known as the water hazard at the time. It was a yellow water hazard. And he looked at all his options. I mean, his options were go back to his last place played, go on a back on the line relief from the last edge crossed, which the last edge crossed would have been the green side. And he didn't like that because it was a bit wet. There was also a drop zone, which was very close to that back on the line relief. He didn't like that either. So he decided to go back to his previous place played, but instead of dropping, at the time it was drop it as near as possible to where you last played from. So, you've got half a club length or, the size of a foot in which to drop it. And it can roll up to 2 club lengths from there, no nearer the hole. This is the old ruling. Tiger, because I think he must have hit it from 50 yards, or he went back to 52 yards, something like that. Don't quote me on that. And played it again. And, sort of a lot of people knew about it, and the committee certainly knew about it, and they thought that he'd done the right thing. So they didn't bring it up with him before he signed his card and handed it in. So then in the press conference afterwards, a journalist asked him and said, what happened on 15th? And he said, I dropped it 2 yards further back, which was not permitted. That's dropping in a wrong place. Dropping in a wrong place and playing from a wrong place is a 2-shot penalty. He was supposed to add that 2-shot penalty to his card. He didn't, so he signed for an incorrect scorecard. But the committee decided that they were partly at fault because they didn't bring it up with him before he signed the card. They knew about it, and they decided that he hadn't done anything wrong. So instead of disqualifying him, they said, we're just going to add the 2-shot penalty because half of it was our mistake. And, you're playing tomorrow, you're just 2 shots higher in your total score.
What do you think about that? I remember at the time, I certainly had my thoughts around the convention. I won't say, but what do you think about what happened there?
Well, the real story didn't really come to me until a few months later. What actually happened. We can all, guess what happened at the time, but the real story didn't really come out until later on, and who knows what the real story is. But as the committee, if you know of something or you hear of something, you should definitely try and address that before the player hands in their scorecard. Now, the rules have been changed a couple of times since then. Obviously, the penalty area, you can drop it up to 1 club length from your last place played, no nearer the hole, and it has to come to rest in the relief area. They've gotten rid of the rolling up to 2 club lengths. But in terms of the scorecard, first they tried to say, they made a change and said, okay, if you've handed in an incorrect score, you get the penalty, and we're going to add another 2-shot penalty. And then that actually stuffed up Lexi Thompson from winning whatever tournament she was leading by 4 shots, and then she placed her ball in a wrong spot, signed the scorecard, and they took that 4 shots off her, and she made a playoff and lost in the playoff. So then they changed it again and said, okay, we're not going to give you the extra 2 shots. It's just the penalties that you're going to get, provided you didn't know that you'd incurred a penalty, and provided that it wasn't a disqualification penalty. So if it was just a stroke penalty, either 1 or 2, you just add that on, and that is going to be your score for that round. So, the golf rules are fluid. They change. They can change sort of every 4 years. Situations change, and people sort of think, oh, is that fair? Golf is not supposed to be fair, but it's also not supposed to be, how would I describe that?
Well, I guess they're intending, when they do change a rule, the intention is to make it as punitive as required relative to the understanding, I guess, if that's the right way to.
Yeah, I like that.
So, I think they somewhat acknowledge with that, saying, we know that we're changing things, and we know that you're probably going to have questions around it in play as it changes. So, so they're just.
I think it's a case. It's a case of, one of the statements in the rules is that you must know the rules, or it's your responsibility to know the rules. Yes. But then they start to realize that how difficult the rules can actually be, and so suddenly they made changes around. Oh well, maybe it's, we won't punish you with a disqualification when you didn't really have an idea that you incurred a penalty.
I certainly, back to the Tiger situation, remember at the time had my thoughts that, I thought it was should have been a DQ, but whether it was convenient or not, that they said that we didn't bring it to Tiger's attention. So therefore it's our fault, not his fault. So we're going to let him play. Can you imagine disqualifying Tiger from the Masters and what that means? And we all know that the Masters as an entity are fairly a law unto themselves in many respects anyway. So imagine that. That's just my thoughts, and that's not any other qualification. But it seemed to be a situation that to me was contrived for the benefit of the viewing audience, which I think I'm fine with as well. So anyway.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I have no problem with your opinion there, and probably think you are semi on the right track too. So, I'm a Tiger fan, so I'm probably a bit biased, but it did feel like they bent something a little bit to make sure he stayed in the tournament.
I'm a Tiger fan, like Jeepers Weepers. There was no greater win than his last year, and many people are thinking that he can actually go back to back. Probably not me, but I'm hope that maybe I can be wrong. I could be proven wrong, but it was one for the ages last year. I still hold the 1986 win of Jack as probably my personal favourite. I remember watching it at the time. You know what I remember at the time about Jack's win in '86? I remember thinking, wow, that guy is so old and still winning the Masters. That's what I remember about Jack's win then. So, so now as I surpass Jack in age as he was at that time, I now think that that win was probably the best. But anyway, I like Jack. I like Tiger.
I'm really interested to see if someone like Bryson DeChambeau takes, the Masters to task in, the actual golf course.
Yeah.
And then they, start lengthening the course, or they start doing, I'm not sure what they would actually end up doing, but, imagine if he got to -20 or something like that. I'd be so interested to see what would happen after that. Surely they would start winding back the ball or the golf clubs or something. Who knows?
Well, I definitely can't see anything on the ball being wound back anytime soon. But the eyes of the world are fairly and squarely on Bryson. He's been very open in his discussion of what his intentions are for the Masters, how he's attacking that. He's got a strategy, a plan, and a theory in place, as he does for, the moment that he wakes up. The moment that he goes to bed, he's got a theory about everything that he does. So it's going to be really interesting to see him put that into play. And see what happens.
Now, another little quick. There has been a fair few Masters gaffes over the years in terms of rules. One of the really bad ones actually cost the guy a chance to be in the playoff, and that's Robert DiVincenzo. Hopefully, that wasn't an IVOR, and he signed for an incorrect score. He had a 3 on the 17th. His marker put it down as a 4. They didn't check the card, and where he thought that he'd got into the playoff for the 1968 Masters, he actually didn't. So that is an absolute shocker. To not sign for the correct score is, I feel for the guy, and he was an absolute champion of the game of golf, especially for Argentina. But that's a bad one.
Yeah, Roberto DiVincenzo, before my time, but he was a legend, and certainly Argentina's finest. Well, not finest, but he was the first that put Argentinian golf on the map, and was the hero for the people like I've gone blank. Blakey.
I was going to say Angel
Cabrera.
Yeah, I see. Whenever I hear Angel, I always think of Miguel Angel Jimenez.
Jimenez.
Oh, there you go, Jimenez.
Ivor might have to jump in here. We've got Angel Cabrera and Angel Jimenez. There we go. There's some Ivor action for you, Ivor. If you are still tuning in, and thank you. We've still named the segment after you, so we do hope that you are representing the segment ideally named after you. Very good. So that covers off the Masters, yeah? So
there's other ones that there's 100 other ones, but we'll keep it to those 3, and then we'll get into what's up next, Roscoe.
So we've got a couple of other situations that are of the times, which we will run through. So we've got what do we got? The Billy Horschel.
Yeah, the Billy Horschel actually helped change the rule for Rule 13 and Rule 9.3, I guess. So this is one that happened also on the 15th. That 15th hole has a lot of stuff going on on that hole, but he hit a chip shot, went to mark his ball, picked it up, put a mark down, picked it up. Then when he was taking his putt, he replaced it and left the marker down, and then the wind blew it into the water. And he was trying to argue that, well, the marker was down, so that's where the spot is. But actually, that's wrong. He hadn't left the marker down, but he'd left the ball down, and he was checking out to see where the ball, the line of the putt. And anyway, the wind blew it into the water, and because he'd put the ball back in play, the ball was now in the penalty area, and he had to take a one-shot penalty and go back, and he chose to go back to his previous place played. Now, the rule has changed. If you have already marked, lifted, and replaced your ball on the putting green, that is the spot that you play it from, and that spot doesn't change unless you make a stroke or you take an unplayable.
Do you want to have a listen to that?
Yeah, that was 2015.
And Floyd.
This looks handy too. Just a little quick there, but he's compiling one of the better rounds of the day, is Billy Horschel. Look at him. Running up to mark that before it falls off the false front.
The wind's going that direction. So if a gust of wind were to come up, could literally blow that ball right in the water.
Fortunately, he's put a coin behind it, so the job's done in getting it into his pocket. Wasn't able to find it, but posted a tournament low or a tour low 60.
That's so low. Uh-oh. And we have a rules official, and clearly when this happens on the green, it's got to be a ball moving.
Well, he was concerned about marking his ball. And
No. So
take us through this.
Oh my goodness. So if he literally had the ball down, and so the ball is in play, he didn't cause the ball to move. If he had, he wishes he caused the ball to move, because then he'd be able to replace it with a one-shot penalty. So he's going to now be playing his fifth shot from the other side of the lake.
Wow, what a scenario to have to deal with in that tournament. So he's marked his ball, he's picked his coin up, he's getting ready to putt, the wind blows the ball, and it's gone off. So
yeah, well, they changed that rule because of that.
Yep. Just a little side note there, the Australian voice that you can hear there is my mate Luke Elvey commentating, and I'm not sure if Luke will be back in the commentary booth this weekend, but let's hope we hear Luke Elvey, one of Australia's fine young broadcasting exports. So they've changed the rule there, and thanks to Billy Horschel that they did, because the members of Mornington now rejoice on some of the sloping greens, and the wind that sometimes prevails down there that can blow the ball. As we've discussed in the past, those many putts that have been addressed, or without being addressed, because you're hovering the putter and trying to, not ground your putt and then have the ball moved by the wind and then incur a penalty. So now it's common sense has prevailed, and that's we thank the RNA and the USGA for that new rule, as does Billy Horschel.
Yeah, I mean, there are situations where the ball can roll closer to the hole, but most of the time it's going to roll further away. So they've changed it and just said, look, unless you've made a stroke or you've taken an unplayable, that is the spot that you have to play from.
Now, Blakey, sorry, we said that we were moving on from the Masters there, but that was obviously another Masters one. So let's go.
Yeah, you said that we were moving on.
Sorry. We were moving on from the Masters, but that Billy Horschel one was a good one. So there we go. We covered it. But let's go to Phil Mickelson. So Phil has.
So this happened on the weekend, didn't it, Roscoe?
These are all fairly relevant and recent ones. Yeah. Current.
So
current of the times. This is breaking news.
That's a Morse code for those who don't know.
If you're as old as me, that used to herald in the news. Welcome to the news.
That was about when Robert DiVincenzo
There you go. Okay, let's
didn't sign for the correct scorecard.
so let's get Phil Mickelson happening here.
So this was at the Houston Open on the weekend.
Era, first tee, always making a huge move with youngsters, boys and girls, trying to show them the way in this great game as we go back to Phil Mickelson on the tee.
Well, one of the things he's been doing to try to straighten some of his tee shots up, he doesn't want to straighten his knees up, and that's one of the things he and his coach have been working on. He wants to stay a little bit more flexed at impact, but still get through.
Nice save, Phil!
Oh, go. Wow, is that going to have enough to carry?
It does not.
Trying to cut it off the water.
And hit it exactly where he was lined up. The ball never moved from right to left at all. I did see a splash.
Yeah, this is the first tee shot where there's really a penalty.
We have to at least walk up and see if it like got through. Don't we? I mean, okay, we can.
First tee shot where there's really a penalty for an errant ball as far as penalty shots.
Darn it.
Hey, Phil Mickelson went all the way up to look to see where that ball crossed. What do you think he's looking at there?
Well, the ball is plugged underneath the lining edge of the penalty area inside the hazard. Now he's checking to see if he can take a unplayable from a penalty area, because it's just in the face, just outside the water line, but he is in the penalty area.
I don't think you're allowed to take an unplayable inside the penalty area.
Well, let's leave that there. You can get the gist of it. So Phil's hit one over the massive expanse of water, trying to go for the bombs, which is probably the reason why Phil has not featured in many of the PGA tournaments this year, because he's been far too aggressive, in my opinion, missed too many fairways. And this is a good example of him going for it and coming unstuck and then getting into a little bit of a rules situation, which you should have known about. But anyway, you can take it from there, Blakey.
Yeah, so we see in the video that he and his caddy know that they crossed the penalty area very early, maybe 100 yards off the tee. So there's no debate about that. It's not like he hit a hook shot in there and it crossed further up. It was just straight in there about 100 yards off the tee. And then Phil's gone up to see if he can actually play it. Thinks that because the ball is under the lip, not quite in the water, that he can play it. Or he thinks, I can take an unplayable. And what he means by that is I can take a 2 club length, drop within 2 club lengths. That's not a permitted option in a penalty area. Red, yellow, doesn't matter. That's not a permitted option. Your options are for a red penalty area, or let's say penalty area. Your options are go back to your last place played or back on a line for your last edge. That's for penalty areas, yellow and red. Then there's an extra option for a red penalty area, and that's go back to your last edge crossed and drop within 2 club lengths, no nearer the hole. Okay, so the 2 club lengths, the lateral relief it's called, it's only for red penalty areas, and the back on the line, use the last edge cross. They don't use the position of the ball to take an unplayable, they use the last edge crossed. So Phil's not able to take what we call an unplayable. He has to proceed. He could have tried to play it, but it was more a ball was more in a spot for a right-hander than a left-hander.
There you go. So he had to go all the way back to where the ball crossed and take his penalty and relief back down there.
Yeah, so he actually ended up taking back on the line relief and was about 80 yards off the tee, and actually dropped in that little fairway height cut grass that the players walk through. You know, off the tee, they walk. It's just before the fairway, between the tee and the fairway. They have this bit of a walkway.
Sometimes called a path.
Yeah, let's say path, but it's not artificial. It's just fairway height cut grass. And he actually ended up dropping there, then played like a 2-wood. They reckon it's a 2-wood or a 3-wood. And just got it past the top of the red penalty area and carried on. It was a par 5. I don't know what he ended up with. I think 7 actually, double bogey. But yeah, you can't use the position of the ball to take relief or penalty relief in a penalty area. It has to be the last edge crossed or go back to your previous place played.
That's a fairly standard one, and he should have known better than that to even ask for it. But that's my thoughts on.
Yeah, well, someone on YouTube tried to say that he was playing the referee, and if he was, I hope he wasn't. But if he was, A, the referee was up to it and knew how to respond to that, and B, don't it's
don't play a referee. The rules are rules.
That's right. Don't try and play referees. It's if you know the rule, don't just proceed under the rule. You look like an absolute wanker if you try and play the referee.
Like as we discussed during the week, it's not a game of rugby where you can cloak and you can sneak a hand in the ruck sort of thing and try and strip the ball and think you might get away with it and get an advantage and hope that they don't see it. And if they do see it, well, you're going to get penalised and on you go. But that's not golf. And so anyway.
Actually, that's a good point, Roscoe. Golf is golf. Golf is so different to other sports. You actually are supposed to be, and I include ladies in this term, but you're supposed to be a gentleman. You're supposed to be playing by the rules of golf, upholding the rules of golf, because that is your character. It's your character. It's your nature to uphold the rules of golf, not to try and get one past the keeper.
So, they were written in 1744 by the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers for a reason, and we still continue with those traditions, and that's why you and I are here, Blakey, and so I appreciate that. Hey,
actually, a shout out to the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers. They got on Instagram this week for the first time. HCEG.
Yep, another
dot Muirfield. Sorry.
Well, if you go to Muirfield, and you go into the little shop, they also, that's a fairly recent change there. When you get to go into the clubhouse, which is where the rules that we in our introduction are held, they have a little shop in there. They never used to have a shop. To buy Muirfield merchandise, you would have to go to Gullen and buy it down there at the pro shop in Gullen, but they've taken it in-house, and it's golf gear like you can get at any other golf gear. It's obviously the nice brands and whatever else, but what it obviously is very expensive. But you don't turn up at Muirfield not thinking that things are going to be cheap. So, but it's great to come away with something from Muirfield with HCEG on it. All I came away with was a 25-pound ball marker, which has all of the Open champions. The champions won at Muirfield, which is now back on the Open Rota. It spent a lot of time off the Open Rota due to its membership policy. And but yeah, Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers, which was started in Leith, went to Musselburgh, and now down at Muirfield. So I think there's two logos. And it's like Royal Melbourne a little bit. They've got a members logo, and then they've got the visitors logo. And some of it does actually say Muirfield somewhere, if I can remember rightly. But yeah, most of it's the script, that cursive script with HCEG. There you go. A little aside, a little bit of tidbit of information for those that are interested. The next one, this is another strange one for me, Blakey. Once again, it's another example of someone playing at the highest level. It's actually a young lady golfer who I really, really do like. I enjoyed watching her at the Solheim Cup last year. She's a great young ambassador for the game, but she probably should have known better than to get an official involved in this situation. So we go straight into playing this situation.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
This was under lights.
Under lights, it's Charlie Hull, by the way.
In the complete dark. I mean, this is a really well lit golf course.
It is. It's really well lit, and you have to be severely offline to lose a ball, which
I think Charlie's done here.
I think so.
But I said, forget about it.
We have, I know.
Yeah. Should we ask for everyone?
You want to ask
I don't think so, because I've said forget about it, so I think.
That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
I got the feeling they found the ball.
Rules, for sure.
Have you got a radio?
I think they found her ball, but she's already kind of declared
Rod, do you have a radio?
Is that the point? I'm guessing.
Yeah, but you can't declare a ball lost.
It's definitely outside with the
Found
black
within
line.
the 3 minutes.
I mean, we've taken on play, we've got to go back.
So that's a decision that the referee will ask. How many minutes has it been? You can't just say, "Oh, don't look for it."
She said, "Forget about it." She said,
That doesn't matter if it's within the 3 minutes. It's in play.
Yeah, that is mine, and you can hit at it, but.
And you can hit it.
So you're saying she's saying she can hit it. So you're saying under the laws, she can now. If you got it right, the ref should be able to say she can go and play it.
Do I need to pull it up?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of the rule because I mean we did say we might go back. Maybe we should go back.
No,
But it wasn't in the 3 minutes. So that's just make sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Adam Wood with that caddy there.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. So what were they were questioning there? They were questioning whether they had found it in 3 minutes, or were they questioning that the fact that because Charlie had hit one into the caca and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it," whether she could actually now play it, because it seemed to me that she was thinking that because she said, "Don't worry about it," and then they found it and she had declared it lost, that she couldn't play it. But obviously, as we've discussed previously, that's not the case. So is that a fair summation of what was happening there, Blakey?
Yeah, she'd hit it into a spot and she said, "Forget about it," thinking that was declaring it lost. And the commentator, the female commentator, Sophie Walker, spot on with her rules knowledge there, saying you can't declare a ball lost. And obviously Charlie and her caddy weren't listening to episode 13 of the Golf Rules Questions Rule of the Week, or just Golf Rules Question of the Week, where we've talked about, are you able to declare a ball lost? And you're not able to declare a ball lost. You can declare it unplayable, but you can't declare it lost. And what we mean by that, and episode 13 we talked about this, is the ball is lost after the player has started the search and can't find it within 3 minutes, or they've put another ball into play, whether it be a provisional ball from nearer to the hole than the spot where they think that the original ball was, or if they've gone back to the tee and put another one into play like that. So fortunately, because you can't declare a ball lost, Charlie got to play her original ball as it was lying. So that was a lucky one for her, and just a great example of that interpretation. And I was very happy to, although it was tough to watch a professional golfer get it so wrong, it was a great example going forward for everyone. This is the interpretation. You can't declare a ball lost.
Yeah, and we're not trying to be hard on these guys. They're just out there doing their job, and they've got a lot on their mind. They're trying to win a tournament and make some money. So, if we seem like we're hard on them sometimes, we do think that it should probably be a little bit more closer to these things and be on top of it. But they are surrounded, I've discussed again in the past, surrounded by a whole host of officials that they do rely on to help make the right decisions. So, but yeah, she probably should have just jumped in there and said, right, let's crack on. But if it was 3 minutes, outside of the 3 minutes, then that would have been a different scenario, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the ball was lost outside of the 3 minutes of starting the search. Now, a lot of people say, oh, they're pros, they should know the rules. That's probably never going to happen. They have a skill that they're really good at, and that is playing the game of golf. There are a lot of pros that do know the rules, and there are some that just don't worry about it. As you said, there's plenty of referees out there to help them. I always put it down to the caddy. The caddy should know the rules. Part of the caddy's job should be knowing the rules. Maybe that you could bring that up with Gordon next time you talk to Glorified Donkey. But I just think that the caddy, that part of their job should be being almost an expert in the rules of golf.
Oh dear. If you haven't listened to the My Love of Golf episode with Gordon from Glorified Donkey, he's one of the caddies at Pebble Beach. And if you do listen to that podcast, which is always a funny laugh, they talk about rules in a different way when they're talking about their players that they're caddying for. So the guys that are paying them, they talk about kicking the ball out from under the tree, and they talk about doing all that sort of stuff, which is basically around speed of play. They're trying to give their players the
speed of play, and they want to get paid.
Yeah, exactly right. So,
get big tips by suddenly you're it came off a tree, it's in the fairway.
They're quite, yeah, they'll probably found it and they just put it under a bed of ice because they just know that it's 3 or 4 more shots in the timber if they don't help the chap on. Anyway, I probably won't ask Gordon about should the caddies know because I'll probably get more answers about that. Very good. But I would. There are a couple of caddies that I could ask. Tomo, who caddies on tour and has caddied on a number of tours for a number of years. I can probably ask Tomo. Interesting. It sounded to be an Australian caddy for Charlie.
Did it? Oh, I thought it was an English caddy.
I could be wrong, but anyway, sounded fairly close. No,
let's move on to the next one there, Roscoe.
Okay, I like this one because it involves a ball in a tree. It involves a shoe being thrown, and involves a happy outcome, I think. Let's have a listen to this one.
Huh?
There it is.
Got it.
What a shot.
It does have a red line. That was awesome. Good shot, dude.
Yeah, great shot, dude. So that was classic. So Billy Andrade playing in what tournament was that?
The Champions Tour. I think it was the Charles Schwab Cup that. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. This might be the biggest Ivor ever, but I think the German won another Charles Schwab Cup.
So Billy Andrade, ball stuck in a tree. They can see the ball. Not sure if it's his. He removes his whatever brand of shoe that it was that he removed, hands it to the official, and the official pegs it up the tree. And the shoe comes back down, fortunately. That would have been a situation. But and then the ball comes down. And it is Billy's ball because it's got the red line on it. So they've identified it correctly. The crowd go wild, as you can hear. What a great shot. And everything was honky-dory. Is that correct, Blakey?
Yeah, this was quite interesting, actually, because they posted it on social media. And he was playing with Brant Jobe, I think. And Brant actually had a pretty good game. And it just so happened that the production crew were following that group that day. So all the players were mic'd up and the cameras were there on the spot. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have seen this. And I thought it was something out of Austin Powers, who throws a shoe. But they saw a ball up the tree and one player actually said, we identified it. So if you identify it, you don't actually need to get the ball back. And another player said, oh, we couldn't identify it, so we're trying to get the ball down. And a spectator said, here, have my shoe, borrow my shoe and try and get the ball down. So I think the player took a swing at it or a fire at it, missed it. And the referee was there and he had a go at it, throwing the shoe, got it. Ball pops out. Funny, very funny video. But the thing is, if you'd already identified it using rangefinder or binoculars, whatever, you can leave the ball there. But I can't actually tell because one player said that they had and one player said that they hadn't. But regardless, they threw the shoe, got the ball out. And now the second part is, that's causing the ball to move. But if there's an interpretation under 9.4 that talks about if you basically say that you're not going to play the ball as it lies, which Billy would have, then you can try and cause the ball to move. That's basically just getting the ball and retrieving the ball and then take the drop for an unplayable, using the spot directly below where the ball was, 2 club lengths, that's your lateral relief, or going back on a line or going back to your last place played.
So in that case, he's got to go directly below. So what happens if you're in the fork of the trunk? So you've got your 2 club lengths from the bottom of the trunk.
Yeah, in the middle of the tree, correct. That the reference point would be the middle of the tree, and then you've got 2 club lengths from there. And it may not actually ever happen, but if it did, where you had a really, 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 really big tree, and the 2 club lengths wasn't wide enough, then I'd suggest you don't take that as an option because it basically isn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a good one.
Yeah, no, it was a fun one. I've got a video on YouTube about taking relief from your ball up a tree. You can play it as it lies. We've seen Sergio jump up a tree and play his ball as it lies.
Yep. And please, everyone, thank you for your support that you have shown Blakey's YouTube and growing YouTube channel, the wonderful resource that it is for any of your rules information. A lot of fun videos like that one. And like all the ones that we've just played, they've all come from Blakey's YouTube, GolfRules Questions YouTube channel. But the growing resource, and it's thanks to you guys that have jumped across and subscribed to the YouTube channel, which we appreciate. And you have to watch the YouTube channel to play. We still need some theme tunes for these topics, these segments, David. That's your challenge. But you have to watch the YouTube video to play background bingo. So now it's the time we play background bingo, David.
Well, it was a pretty tough one last week. There were no winners of getting both. My dad got my one, and he should have, because he was a member there. So Mr. Blake was able to say that my background last week was Tokaraki Golf Club in the South Island, just inland from Oamaru, about 35 minutes inland from Oamaru.
Beautiful.
9-hole golf course. When I was first a member there, I think the first year it was free if you're a junior. The second year it was $2. And so he got that one. And then we stumped Andrew Miller because we basically didn't give him any clues, but I ended up giving him some clues on YouTube, and he got yours, which was St Andrews Beach, which is an absolute fantastic public access golf club or golf course. Designed by who, Roscoe?
Tom Doak.
So Tom Doak, one of the best designers, the world-renowned golf course designers. So he ended up getting that, but he missed out on Tokaraki. So this week we need to give some clues, Roscoe.
Well, I think I've gone fairly generous with this one. It's a little closer to home. It's what other clue? It's a course that's been affected by the COVID virus and the cancellation of tournaments in Australia. That's as much as I'll say.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I could give an easier clue than that, but you could just look up glorious clubhouses of golf courses in Australia. My one actually looks very similar. To, say, a Wanaka or a Queenstown golf club, but it's not. It's in that area, but it's not Wanaka or Queenstown.
Okay. Interesting.
So,
it is very close to Wakatipu there, Lake Wakatipu.
Yeah, that's right. It does look like Lake Wakatipu or Lake Wanaka, but it isn't.
Okay, there we go. Well, my one was the last course that I played, the last round of golf that I played before lockdown 1. That was the last round of golf I had before lockdown 1. That is a photo taken on that day.
Did you play with the Premier?
No.
He's a member there.
He is. Yes, he is.
Sorry, that's another clue.
I'm not sure if he's been cited there for a while, but well, in fairness, he's been very busy.
Anyway, he had a day off.
Don't know.
Right, let's get away from COVID again.
We haven't spoken recently. IVORs, got any IVORs to report in? What
I keep forgetting people. It's terrible. It's a shocker. Jerry Bauer, I said that he was from the US. He's actually from Canada. Although he did tell me that he refereed at Mission Hills, and I think that's where I got confused. So he's actually Canadian.
Apologies.
What?
I'm apologising additionally on your behalf and our behalf as a part of a team here that for getting it mixed up that you're from Canada. Sorry.
Yeah, it's hard enough for me to remember the rules of golf, but I should really put some time into remembering who our listeners and followers are, because they do a superb job. And obviously Andrew Miller, I referred to him as Webbo. Webbo is our resident policeman, detective, as I like to say, or inspector, keeping us on the straight and narrow, calling out all our IVORs, which we you and I, well, me more, have plenty of. And Andrew Miller is our background bingo expert. He missed out last week only because we gave him no clues, but I think that he'll be back to his best getting our backgrounds this week.
Excellent. And finally, before we wrap it up, the GRQOTW, that was an either last week when I said GRQOTY, but GRQOTW.
I left that out of the Instagram clip for you.
Thank you.
The GRQOTW, are you permitted to use a club as a substitute flagstick? So say I'm putting, Roscoe, you've taken the flagstick out, you've left it on the edge of the green, and then I say to you, oh, I can't quite see the hole. Can you stick your club in the hole for me? What does, is that permitted? And what would happen if the ball accidentally hit the club? And what would happen if if you made the ball deliberately hit the club? So all I really want to know is, can you use the club as a substitute flagstick?
So extra points if you can give the full scenario there, but yeah, can use the club as a substitute flagstick. Very good. I think I know the answer to that one, unlike the knowing the answer to the threesome last week. And someone did ask a question on Instagram the other day. Ben from South Australia. He wasn't sure on the previous golf rules question of the week, the two-stroke penalty in match play. There we go. Ben, thanks for listening. He does listen to all the other podcasts that we're part of, and now he's a fan of the GRQ podcast as well. So thank you, Ben, and welcome to the team.
Make sure if you do have a question, there's all the mediums that you can get me on, but the best one is email, golfrules.questions@gmail.com. And if you send me an email with a question, you might just be getting a newsletter coming back to you describing some kind of rules scenario. So look out.
There you go. If you want to talk to the medium or the medium of golf rules with the savant-like knowledge, just send Blakey a question through any of the means that you are therefore possible. Blakey, I think that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks for hosting me alongside you for your podcast. It's a privilege and a pleasure as always. It's good to see you again.
Excellent, Roscoe. Great to see you. Thank you very much for your time and effort.
Excellent work. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And until we meet next time on the Golf Rules Questions podcast, jump over to iTunes, leave a review, leave a rating, help us get up the rankings a little bit. Subscribe. That's good. Subscribe and share.
Yeah, subscribe. Remember, without rules, there is chaos.
Oh, there we go. On that note, thanks for listening.
See you guys.